Room 217. The wind never really stops in the mountains above Estes Park. It presses against the white facade of the Stanley Hotel like a restless visitor, slipping through unseen cracks, whispering along the railings, humming in the eaves. By the time I pulled into the circular driveway just before sunset, the sky was already turning violet behind the peaks, and the hotel looked less like a luxury resort and more like something preserved from another century. I told myself I was there for content. Spending the night in America's most haunted hotel, Room 217. That was the working title. Clean, clickable, dramatic. But I didn't believe in ghosts. Not seriously. The building rose above me, grand and symmetrical, its white exterior glowing faintly under the fading light. Long rows of windows reflected the mountains. From a distance, it was elegant. Up close, it felt observant. The revolving door let out a low sigh as I stepped inside. The lobby was warm and golden, almost aggressively welcoming. Polished wooden floors, framed photographs of past decades, a sweeping staircase curling upward like something out of a period film. A piano sat quietly in the corner. No one played it, but it felt like it had been played recently. There were only two other guests checking in ahead of me. Their voices echoed more than they should have in such a large space. When it was my turn, I placed my ID on the counter. "Reservation for tonight," I said. Room 217. The receptionist's smile held for half a second too long. "That's one of our requested rooms," she said. "Requested? For its history." She slid the key card toward me rather than handing it directly. "If you need anything during the night, dial 0. Her tone suggested I would. The elevator ride to the second floor felt slower than it should have. The mirrored walls reflected me from every angle, camera bag slung over my shoulder, trying to look confident. I caught myself adjusting my posture, as if someone else were watching through the reflection. When the doors opened, the hallway stretched in both directions, long, narrow, lined with identical cream-colored doors and antique wall lamps casting dim, yellow pools of light. The carpet muffled my footsteps completely. Room 217 sat midway down the corridor. The key card clicked. The door opened without resistance. The room itself was beautiful. High ceilings, vintage furniture, a large bed with an ornate wooden headboard, floral wallpaper that felt charming instead of outdated. Two windows overlooked the darkening mountains. It didn't feel haunted. It felt staged. I set up 2 cameras immediately, one facing the bed, one angled toward the bathroom and entryway. I did a quick walkthrough narration for the vlog, keeping my tone light. "Alright guys, here we are. Room 217. Supposedly the most active room in the hotel. We're going to keep cameras rolling all night and see if anything actually happens." I half expected something to happen while I was saying it. Nothing did. By 11:30 p.m., the hotel had gone silent. The kind of silence that feels layered. Not just quiet, but insulated. Like the world outside had been muted. Even the wind had softened into something distant and dull. I sat cross-legged on the bed, laptop open, reviewing the footage I'd recorded earlier in the lobby. At 12:37 a.m., the bathroom light turned on. It wasn't dramatic. No loud click. No flash. Just light. Soft and yellow, spilling into the bedroom from beneath the slightly ajar door. I froze. I distinctly remembered turning it off. I always double-check lights in hotel rooms. It's a habit. I stared at the bathroom door for a full 10 seconds before moving. "Probably a wiring thing," I muttered, though the room hadn't flickered at all before. The air felt different as I approached. Cooler. The bathroom tile reflected the light sharply. Everything looked normal. The mirror. The sink. The tub with the white shower curtain drawn halfway closed. I stepped inside and flipped the switch off. Darkness returned instantly. I stood there longer than necessary, listening. Old buildings make noises, settling wood, distant plumbing, subtle creaks. I told myself that's all this was. I returned to the bed. 3 minutes later, the light turned on again. This time, the bathroom door creaked open slowly on its own. I was nowhere near it. The hinge gave a soft groan as the door widened inch by inch. The camera facing the bathroom caught everything. My mouth went dry. "Okay," I said quietly, more to steady myself than anything else. I stood up again, slower this time. Before I reached the door, the light flickered twice. Not like a loose bulb, like a pulse. When I reached the threshold, I didn't step inside immediately. The mirror reflected part of the bedroom behind me, the bed, the wall, the second camera. And something else. A shape. Not solid. Not detailed. Just darker than the surrounding space. Standing near the far side of the bed. My heart began hammering so loudly I was sure the mic could pick it up. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Instead, I leaned slightly to change the angle of the reflection. The shape didn't move. It stood just behind where I had been sitting minutes earlier. Tall. Narrow. Human in outline but lacking features. The longer I stared, the more it seemed to sharpen. And then I felt it. Breathing. Close. Just behind my right shoulder. A slow exhale. Warm. I spun around. Nothing was there. The room looked exactly as it had before, bed undisturbed, curtains still, camera, tripod unmoved. I looked back to the mirror. The shape was gone. For several seconds, I couldn't process what had just happened. I checked under the bed, inside the closet, behind the curtains, even though I knew no one could have entered without triggering the heavy wooden door. Everything was locked. The hallway outside was silent when I cracked the door open to check. No footsteps. No distant voices. Just that endless stretch of dim lighting. When I shut the door again, the temperature in the room dropped noticeably. Not dramatically, just enough that the air felt thin. My phone buzzed. I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was a notification from the hotel's guest app. New device detected on room network. I frowned. I hadn't connected anything besides my laptop and phone. I opened the app. Under connected devices, a third entry appeared. Owner, active. My stomach twisted. I hadn't added anyone. There was no shared network access. No Bluetooth pairing prompt. Nothing. Just. Owner, active. The timestamp read 12:41 a.m. For minutes after the bathroom light first turned on. I tried removing the device. The option was grayed out. Another soft creak echoed from somewhere behind me. This time, it wasn't the bathroom. It was the closet. The sliding door moved a fraction of an inch. Just enough to create a thin vertical line of darkness inside. I stared at it, waiting. The line widened slowly. Not fast. Not aggressive. Deliberate. The air felt heavier with every inch. And then, from inside the closet, something tapped against the wood. 3 times. Soft. Measured. I grabbed the camera from the tripod and aimed it directly at the opening. "Okay," I whispered, my voice barely steady. "If someone's in there, this isn't funny." The tapping stopped. Silence filled the room again, thick and suffocating. Then the bathroom light turned off by itself. The entire room fell into darkness except for the faint glow from the hallway light under the door. In that dim outline, I saw movement near the foot of the bed. Not reflection. Not shadow from outside. Movement. Something stepped forward. Tall. Featureless. Blocking the faint strip of light. And just before my vision adjusted fully to the darkness, the closet door slammed shut with violent force. The camera fell from my hand. The last thing I heard before the screen went black was that same slow, steady breathing. Right next to my ear. And it wasn't mine, the owner. When the camera hit the floor, the screen cracked but didn't shut off. It lay sideways on the carpet, capturing a tilted view of the room in grainy low light. The image trembled slightly from the impact, then steadied. The closet door was closed. The bathroom was dark. The bed stood empty. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then the audio picked it up again. Breathing. Slow. Controlled. Too steady to be panic. I didn't remember stepping backward, but when I forced myself to look around, I was pressed against the wall beside the window. My shoulder blades hurt from how hard I'd leaned into it. The shape near the foot of the bed was gone. Or maybe it had never been there. My brain scrambled for logic. Stress hallucination. Lack of sleep. Mountain altitude. Old building noises. Anything reasonable. But the air still felt occupied. Not empty. Occupied. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking more than I wanted to admit. The hotel app was still open. Owner, active. Signal strength, excellent. Connection type, internal network. That made no sense. Internal meant hardwired access, something connected within the building system. I refreshed the page. The label changed. Owner, in room. A cold pulse ran through me. In room. I hadn't moved, which meant the system wasn't referring to me. The bathroom light flickered once, then turned back on without the switch being touched. I swallowed hard and forced myself forward. Running would only escalate my panic. I needed to document this. I retrieved the fallen camera from the floor and checked the playback. The moment the closet door had begun sliding open was clear. No visible hand. No distortion. Just slow movement, as if guided carefully from the inside. But the part near the bed, that was worse. In the low light, something blocked the strip of hallway glow beneath the door. It wasn't fully solid, more like density in the air, a darker section that moved independently from the room's shadows. It stepped forward once. Then the screen glitched. Horizontal lines tore across the footage for half a second before stabilizing. And when the image returned to normal, the space was empty. I replayed it 3 times. Each time, the distortion happened at the same frame. I didn't want to look toward the closet again. But I did. It remained closed. Too closed. The handle began to rattle gently. Not violently. Not like someone trying to escape. More like someone testing whether I would react. The bathroom light went out again. Total darkness. My chest tightened as the hallway light under the door disappeared too, as if something had stepped directly in front of it from the outside. There were no footsteps in the corridor. No voices. Just pressure. I grabbed the bedside lamp and switched it on. Nothing happened. The bulb remained dead. But the red recording light on the camera was still blinking. The phone buzzed again. New notification. Access granted. I stared at the screen. Access to what? The room temperature display appeared beneath it. 68 degrees Fahrenheit. 67 degrees Fahrenheit. 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Dropping steadily. The app updated again. Owner adjusting environment. That was when the closet door moved again. This time, it didn't slide open gradually. It jerked. Hard. As if pulled from inside with sudden strength. The door stopped halfway. And from the darkness within, I saw it clearly for the first time. Not a face. Not eyes. But form. A tall silhouette that did not reflect light properly. It wasn't just absence of light, it absorbed it. The outline wavered slightly, like heat distortion above asphalt. My mind wanted to label it human, but its proportions were subtly wrong. Too elongated. Arms hanging slightly lower than they should. Head tilted at an unnatural angle. It didn't step out. It didn't need to, because the pressure in the room intensified, as if the walls themselves leaned inward. The app chimed again. Owner. Primary user. Primary. The screen flickered to a camera feed. Not mine. Not the hallway. Another angle. The room. From the ceiling. A perspective I hadn't set up. In the live feed, I could see myself standing frozen near the bed. And, behind me, the silhouette stood inches away. Close enough that its shape overlapped my shoulders. But in reality, when I slowly turned my head, there was nothing there. The feed lagged for half a second. Then the silhouette moved closer in the screen view. Its head lowered toward my ear. In real life, the breathing returned. Warmer now. Closer. I couldn't hear footsteps. Just presence. The closet door slammed shut again. The impact rattled the mirror on the wall. The live ceiling feed cut to black. The app crashed. My phone screen went dark. For several long seconds, the only sound in the room was my own pulse pounding in my ears. Then, knock. From the inside of the bathroom. 3 slow taps against the tile. I hadn't entered it since the second flicker. The door to the bathroom creaked open on its own. The light inside was still on. The mirror reflected the bedroom. Reflected me. and reflected someone else standing directly behind me.
Clearer now.
The figure had no facial features, just smooth shadow where details should be. But the head was tilted slightly forward, observing. In the mirror, it raised one arm. In real space, I felt something brush the back of my neck.
Cold this time.
Not warm. Ice sliding across skin. I dropped the phone. The mirror cracked down the center, without being touched. A sharp fracture splitting my reflection from the thing behind me. And when I looked again, the reflection showed only me. Alone. The bathroom light burst out. Total darkness swallowed the room. The hallway light beneath the door returned faintly. And the temperature stopped dropping. Silence. Absolute. The phone rebooted in my hand. The app reopened automatically. Connected devices. Laptop, active. Phone, active. No third user. No owner. The environment reading stabilized at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I didn't move for nearly a full minute. Nothing else shifted. No breathing. No tapping. No flickering. Just the distant hum of the building settling. But as I slowly backed toward the bed, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The indentation on the mattress. On the far side. As if someone had been sitting there moments ago. And it was still slowly rising. Like weight had just lifted, the hidden room. The next morning, I barely slept. My eyelids burned, and my thoughts were tangled in the memory of the shadow. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the wind against the windows, sent jolts of panic through me. I couldn't shake the feeling that the figure from the night before hadn't left. I needed answers. I retraced my steps, inspecting every inch of the room, looking for hidden cameras or devices. Nothing. The walls were solid. The closet just a closet. And yet something lingered. Then I remembered the hotel directory. There had been a note tucked at the bottom of the welcome packet. Some rooms are not on the standard floor plan. Access is by invitation only. I hadn't thought much of it before. Now, it seemed like a clue. I searched the walls and floors for anomalies, subtle signs of a hidden passage. That's when I noticed it, a faint seam in the paneling along the far wall, almost invisible in the morning light. My pulse quickened. The seam wasn't part of the room's design. Someone had deliberately concealed a door here. I pressed my fingers against the panel. It didn't budge. I tapped along the edges, listening for hollow sounds. One section responded differently. A soft click. The wall swung inward. I stumbled into darkness. The hidden room was small, barely the size of a walk-in closet. Dust coated everything, and the air smelled of mildew and something metallic. In the corner, a desk was stacked with notebooks, cameras, and strange devices I didn't recognize. Screens lined the wall, all blank, except one flickered with static. I approached it carefully. The static cleared, revealing grainy footage. A figure appeared on screen, the same shadow from last night, moving silently through the hotel corridors. But now it was being followed by someone else, a man. His face was obscured by shadows, but he moved with purpose, manipulating switches and panels along the walls. I stumbled back. Someone had been observing this place, watching the shadows, the rooms, and the guests, and perhaps controlling them. A soft thud behind me made me spin around. The wall panel I had entered through was slowly closing. "No," I whispered. I ran to push it back, but it slammed shut with a force that rattled the hidden room's windows. The screens went dark. The only light came from a single overhead bulb, flickering intermittently. Then I heard it, the breathing. Slow. Controlled. Closer than before. I froze. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The app had connected again, showing owner, hidden room. It wasn't a ghost. It was someone or something, using the guise of shadows and fear to manipulate the space. I tried to leave, but the door to the hidden room wouldn't budge. The seams along the paneling had disappeared. The wall was now solid. Panic surged. I banged against it, screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the thick air of the hidden room. Then I saw movement in the corner, the shadow. It wasn't fully formed, more like a ripple of darkness, stretching toward me. and behind it the man. Watching. Waiting. A whisper echoed. You weren't supposed to see this. I realized then that I had stumbled into something far older and more calculated than a simple haunting. The hotel, the shadows, the hidden room, it was all part of a system designed to observe, manipulate, and perhaps trap those who wandered too close. The shadow moved closer, filling the room with pressure, and the temperature plummeted. My breath came out in visible puffs. The man stepped forward, but his face remained a void, featureless. I grabbed the first thing I could, a notebook from the desk, and hurled it toward the shadow. It dissipated into mist, but not entirely. I felt it brush against my arm. I ran toward a corner and pressed my hand against what I hoped was another panel. My fingers grazed a latch. With every ounce of strength I had, I pulled. The wall gave way just enough to squeeze through. I tumbled into the corridor beyond. The hotel was quiet. Too quiet. No staff. No guests. Just the faint hum of the central system, alive and aware. I didn't look back as I ran to the exit. Outside, the sun had fully risen, but the air still carried a chill from the room I had escaped. I never saw the shadow or the man again, but the app remained on my phone, showing a single, chilling message. Owner, watching. And I knew, without a doubt, that the hidden room was only the beginning.